So, this is a new series of, similar to my BTCC series, BTCC stuff. This is F1 stuff, and it's just a little feature on certain things that I find interesting about F1 throughout the history, and I'm sure a lot of people who grew up watching late 90s F1 will be able to relate to these talks. So, one thing I just wanted to cover, which would be a very interesting topic, is some of the customer engines from the late 90s, and I'm going to do a quick summary of the Supertec engines, which had a brief but interesting period in Formula One. Supertec, I'll just read out the wiki first and have a little discussion on some of the more interesting aspects. Supertec was a brand of Formula One engines supplied by Dutch company Super Performance Competition Engineering BV, quite a mouthful, managed by Flavio Briatore, blimey, and Bruno Michael. Supertec engines, so they were actually managed by people who were very experienced in the sport. Supertec engines were updated in 1997 Renault RS9 units built by Mecachrome. So Mecachrome were similar to Supertec, except with probably a much stronger workforce and budget. Mecachrome is notable. They actually eventually, after some poor performances, most of the people at Mecachrome went on to build the Vettel's title-winning Red Bull car. Obviously, he won it 3 years in a row. So, in May 98, Super Performance Competition Engineering signed an exclusive distribution agreement with Mecachrome to begin in the 1999 season. The engines were purchased and rebadged as Supertec. Supertecs powered Williams, Benetton and BAR in 1999 and Benetton and Arrows in 2000. The Benetton team rebadged the engines as Playlife. You might remember the Benetton team briefly had as their sponsor on the side of the car, you could often see the word Playlife. That's where that came from. After the 2000 season, Supertec collapsed due to financial problems, and Renault Sport F1 bought back Supertec's assets in 2001. I guess they said thank you very much and went on to win world titles. So, some interesting facts off Wikipedia about the Supertec team. I'll just read them out. Teal name Supertec, type Besloten Vennootschap. Blimey, that's Dutch. I'm going to need some help with that one. Automobile racing, automobile racing, founded Netherlands 98, defunct 2001. So yeah, very brief career for this little outfit. Assets bought by Renault Sport. Headquarters Netherlands. Key people Bruno Michael and Flavio Briatore. Both those guys are like very, very experienced F1 management people. Products: internal combustion engines and cars. I mean, Briatore's he owns Benetton, the fashion label, and the F1 car. Sadly, no longer with us. They're one of the teams that I kind of felt were sad to move out of F1. So, internal combustion engines and car engine assembly services, performance engineering. First entry 99 Australian Grand Prix, last entry 2000 Malaysian Grand Prix. Races entered 82. So basically, interesting, probably the 99 season. Interestingly, 3 teams actually took up these customer engines, drew up contracts for them, and BAR coming into F1 with a lot of American tobacco advertising backing and Craig Pollard as the boss. This was a very this outfit was expected to do very well, and even though they weren't necessarily going to win the championship, they often pre-season would say that they think they had the ability to win races, which with the Supertec engine was not going to happen, I'm afraid. However, of the three in '99, I would say the BAR probably had the worst chassis of the three. Benetton and Williams both picked up results on. Williams finished with 35 points, fifth in the world title. Benetton 16 and 6th. And unfortunately, BAR, although Jacques Villeneuve, who was again another big name, BAR being hyped before that first season, BAR did become a reasonable team later down the line, but they were poor, and the Supertec engines, they weren't the worst reliability. I believe like Asiatech, which was used around the time, were much worse. But with BAR, they just did a terrible. They just didn't seem to work, the chassis or the engine. Not so bad at Benetton and Williams. However, Williams marked their first year with the Winfield livery as the title sponsor, very distinctive livery with the red, with some really poor results using these engines, lacking both speed and reliability overall. Zanardi was really not very good for whatever reason, because he has been a solid driver in various forms of motorsport, but he didn't have a good year. And teammate Ralf Schumacher did fare a little better, but you have to remember that Williams were were 3 world titles on the trot, and they were expected to be well in the mix, and their 99 effort just did not go to plan. Very interesting season, and many will probably remember the huge qualifying crashes. BAR's first year in F1 was probably the thing you remember the most. Is 2 extremely spectacular qualifying crashes at Eau Rouge. Villeneuve and Zonta both. Villeneuve, I remember watching the qualifying live quite a few years ago, and I mean, Villeneuve, I believe, dropped it first, and just like it was a nasty, spectacular crash. He'd said that this is a true story. Apparently, that he and Ricardo Zonta had a bet that where they wouldn't lift Eau Rouge, and it sounds like a pretty crackpot bet, but apparently they both agreed to it. And if you YouTube search the result, you will see both of them had a crash. Villeneuve won, and then Zonta's looked even worse. Luckily, they both survived, but BAR had 2 completely ruined cars. And yeah, so Supertec didn't work out that time. However, the next year with Arrows F1 and supplying Benetton for a second year with a slightly different, improved engine. It was a new model. They did get some slightly better results. Arrows were not were a little better in 2000 than they were in 99, and Benetton had a reasonable season, but nothing spectacular. And so after that, it just didn't work. The results were not strong enough to continue the project, so they folded after the next year. I believe they possibly could have had a deal with Minardi there, but I think Minardi, Arrows I know went with the Asiatech engines, which were not particularly good either, but yeah, so Supertec, not too bad with some of the Williams and Benetton entries there, but you have to remember that Williams were a team that were supposed to win world titles, so an interesting customer engine there. Interesting how they used to set them up, and maybe I'll cover some more in the coming time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little insight and reminder into the Supertec customer engines in F1. Maybe we'll cover some more. Take care.